Hello, my name is Stephen, and I'm one of the core team behind the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. Thank you for jumping on board as a local ride host. It's the support of people such as yourself that make the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride one of the most spectacular charity events of its kind. This video was developed to help you organise a safe and successful riding event, with some useful tips on what it takes to ensure that your ride runs smoothly. No matter the size of your ride, whether it has 50 or 1,000 participants, you can scale up or scale down the number of volunteers to suit. I will cover the basics, including the ideal length of ride, where the route should proceed, and what the ideal number of support crew you should have trained up. These include ride leaders who control the pace up front whilst directing corner markers along the route, wayfinding signage holders that stand at corners that are unsafe for riders to corner mark upon, mid-group leaders and first aid riders that ride amongst the group assisting with directing the route and first aid requirements, tail rider that collects corner markers, and support vehicles for breakdowns. The Distinguished Gentleman's Ride is a slow parade through the heart of every city and town that it takes place. The ride is a spectacle that raises awareness of our cause and brings a smile to the faces of passers-by. The perfect length of a ride should be no longer than 25 kilometres or 15 miles and running upon roads that have a relatively low average speed due to the participants wearing minimal personal protective equipment. With riders taking part upon classic-styled motorcycles in their finest clothes, safety is our priority. Be sure to remind all participants in a pre-ride speech prior to departure the way in which you plan to run your local ride, what your expectations are of rider behaviour, and touch on the reason that they are riding the event, which is the support of prostate cancer research and male suicide prevention. If your city requires support from the local police and councils, please reach out to them well in advance of the ride taking place. Having a crew of volunteers assisting to navigate the route is a must to ensure that everybody taking part in your event makes it to the regroup point and finish point safely without getting lost along the way. The perfect team consists of 2 ride leaders wearing bibs upon their backs, riding up front to control the pace, as well as pointing out marking locations to the team of corner marking riders that are following directly behind them whilst riding in formation. The general rule to working out how many corner markers your ride requires is as simple as calculating the maximum number of corners the route has between either the start to regroup point or regroup point to finish point, then adding an extra 25% more trained corner markers to be safe. Some of the larger rides have over 20 dedicated corner markers trained for this role alone. Running multiple test rides in the lead up to your event ensures that your team are primed and ready for the big day, and that they know without any doubt the most appropriate and safe positions to park their bikes without interfering with local traffic flow. The concept of corner markers is very simple. They ride closely behind the ride leaders until they are directed to suitable corners to mark, helping point the route to participants throughout the event. For participants taking part, all they need to do is continue straight along any given road until they see a corner marker pointing the direction that they need to turn. Corner markers wear an easily identifiable bib on their backs to encourage participants to follow their directions throughout the ride, and are told to do so during your ride speech. Corner markers must remain at their corner until they are indicated to leave their position by the tail rider, which could take between 5 minutes to 45 minutes dependent on the size of the ride. A well-trained and dedicated tail rider is vital in making sure this system works, as they need to complete the route collecting corner markers. Even if there are breakdowns or incidents along the way, the tail rider must complete the ride without delay. Once a corner marker is relieved of their duties, they safely overtake the tail rider to resume the ride. Mid-group leaders and qualified first aid riders need to be trained up to know the route like the back of their hands, as they play a very important role in making sure that nobody gets lost and effective treatment is applied to participants should an on-road incident occur. It is ideal to have both a mid-group leader and first aid rider every 50 participants, dispersed into the pack as they leave the start and regroup locations, with the most experienced first aid rider to always stay at the tail of the ride. This ensures that mid-group leaders are clearly identifiable as knowing the route for participants to follow, and that first aid riders with their armbands can be flagged down when required. First aid riders should apply suitable first aid as per their qualifications to stabilise patients until paramedics arrive, whilst keeping the scene clear to ensure the ride continues with minimal delay. Only first aid riders should attend a scene, with general participants instructed to complete the ride. The tail rider will not stop at the scene as they are required to collect corner markers further along the route. Support vehicle drivers are vital to assist in the clearance of incidents, whether it be a minor accident or a broken down motorcycle. The formula for working out how many are required for your ride is as simple as having one support vehicle per 200 motorcycles. All support vehicles should carry ramps, tie-down straps, spare fuel, fire extinguisher and a first aid kit. Be sure to load the motorcycle in a safe and efficient fashion to ensure that the local road networks remain as unaffected as possible, minimising the impact on the general community. Wayfinding signage holders play a very important role in directing the ride when it is unsafe for a riding corner marker to do so. We encourage wayfinding signage holders to dress dapper as well and to answer any questions that the general public may ask about the spectacle taking place. Like the corner markers that are riding, wayfinding signage holders must remain at their corner until they are indicated to leave their position by the tail rider, which could take between 5 minutes to 45 minutes dependent on the size of the ride. By following the basic steps within this video, you should have everybody arriving at your regroup point safely, efficiently and with a big smile on their face. Be sure to arrange all of your volunteers in exactly the same fashion as you had at the start location, with corner markers up front behind the ride leaders, mid-group leaders and first aid riders dispersed every 50 riders, and the most experienced first aid rider, tail rider and support vehicles at the end of the ride. Simply repeat the process between the regroup and finish point to complete your local Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. Thank you for joining the journey and for taking the time to get an insight into running your local Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. That's it for the video. However, please share it with your volunteer support team so that they too can get the picture and clear understanding of how best to support you. You will find a shareable link once you have completed the Ride Host guidelines. Tally ho!